features of Excel. So, first one, what is Excel? Excel is a spreadsheet program included in the Microsoft Office suite of applications. So, spreadsheets present tables of values arranged in rows and columns that can be manipulated mathematically using both basic and complex arithmetic operations and functions. Number 1, CONCAT. The CONCAT function is a very useful string function in Excel. It allows you to join two or more strings together. The CONCAT function is only available in newer versions of Excel starting in Excel 2016 and was intended to replace the old concatenate function. To illustrate how the CONCAT function works, let's look at an example. Here we have 4 columns of data. Let's use the CONCAT function to join the values from these our columns into a single result. To get started, let's begin by entering the CONCAT command. As you can see, the CONCAT function takes a series of text values as parameters. You must provide at least one text value and the function can accept up to 255 values in total. And the resulting string can be up to a maximum of 8,192 characters in length. Since we want to concatenate the values from columns A to D, we will enter A2 as the first parameter, B2 as the second, C2 as the third, and finally D2 as the fourth parameter. Now that we have entered all of the parameters for the CONCAT function, let's complete the command to loop. You should see the value ABCD appear in cell E2. This is the concatenated values from cells A2, B2, C2, and D2. Now let's copy our formula into cells E3 to E5. Notice that the result in cell E3 contains the value 1, 2, 3, 4 as a string value. It is important to note that the CONCAT function will convert all parameters to strings before concatenating them together into the final string. So in the sample numeric, values 1, 2, 3, 4 were first converted to strings and then concatenated together to create the strings value 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, the result in cell E4 contains techonthenet.com. And finally, this last result in cell E5 concatenates the values in cells A5, B5, C5, and D5 and returns the string value alphabet. As you can see, the concatenate function will accept blank cells as parameters such as C5 and D5. This completes our example of how to use Excel's concat function. So number 2 is MAXIFS. The next function we're going to take a look at is the MAXIFS function, and this is pretty similar to sum ifs or account ifs, and it's going to allow us to find the maximum value in a range based on a given set of criteria. So in this example, we've got some ordered data here. And what we want to do is find the maximum total amount for orders that are for the color black and size large. So we can use MAXIFS to do that. And the first argument is the range of values that you want to find the maximum in, so that's going to be our total, and the next argument is the first criteria range, so that's going to be the color column here. So we want to see if that is equal to black, and then we also want to test the size column here and see if that's large, and we press enter. Here we get 323. So that's the largest total value for any orders that are for a black colored item that is also large. So that MAXIFS is going to allow you to calculate a maximum based on one or more criteria. VLOOKUP is one of
Excel's most powerful lookup functions. If your data is organized into vertical columns, you can use the VLOOKUP function to search for a value in the first column of your data table and return a corresponding value from another column. The easiest way to understand this function is to look at an example. So let's get started. Here we have a table of data containing order information. We can use VLOOKUP to locate a product based on a particular order ID value. To get started, let's begin by entering the VLOOKUP command. As you can see, the VLOOKUP function takes 4 parameters. The first parameter we will enter is the value that we are trying to locate in the first column of the table. In our example, we want to search for order ID number 10251. The second parameter we will need to enter is the table of source of the data VLOOKUP will use. The range provided must include both the first column that will be searched for our first parameter value and the column containing our hopeful result. We will provide either a range of cells of name range for this parameter. For example, we will enter the range A1, B6. The third parameter we must enter is the position number in the table where the return value can be found. A value of 1 indicates the first column in the table, a value of 2 indicates the second column, and so on. Since we are looking for the name of a product, we will enter a 2, which represents cells B1 and B6. Finally, and most importantly, is VLOOKUP's fourth parameter. This parameter determines whether an exact match or an approximate match will be done when looking for the first parameter. A value of false means the VLOOKUP is looking for an exact match. A value of true means that an approximate or close match will be returned, unless you have a specific reason for looking for an approximate match. You should always use false to return an exact match. Otherwise, the VLOOKUP could return some unexpected results. Now that we have entered all of VLOOKUP's parameters, let's complete the command to examine the result. You should see the product name Pierce. Pierce is the product name that corresponds to the order ID number 10251 that we searched for. This covers a simple example of how to use Excel's VLOOKUP function.
Guys, so the next function that we need to look at is MINIX-Excel function. What is MINIX-Excel's function? The Excel MINIX functions return to the smallest numeric value that meets one or more criteria in a range of values. Also allowed to find the minimum value. Don't worry guys, I prepared some demonstration to show how MINIX works. So please watch this. And this video show the use MINIX to calculate minimum value on multiple criteria. Hope you like it, guys.
I have a min-ifs function. So this is going to allow us to find the minimum value in a range based on one or more criteria. So in this example, let's find the minimum total value here based on a color of red and a large size. So let's use min-ifs. And the first argument is the range of values we want to find the minimum in. So that's our total. And the next argument is our first criteria range. So for us, that's our color. And we want to test whether that's red. And our next argument is our second criteria. So that's going to be our size. And we want to test if that's large. And when we press enter, we get a value of 2,227. So that's the minimum value in our totals column for red and size large. So that's the min-ifs function. We can calculate a minimum based on one or more.
The next function that we need to look at is the ifs Excel function. What is Excel ifs function? The Excel ifs function runs the multiple tests and returns a value corresponding to the first true result. Use the ifs function to evaluate multiple conditions without multiple nested if statement. Ifs allows shorter and easier to read formulas. And again, I prepared some video to explain the ifs functions for further instruction to can easily catch up. Hope you like it, guys. Thank you.
So this is going to help you avoid nested if functions. So if you have to test multiple criteria and return results based on those criteria, then you're going to want to use the ifs function instead of using nested if functions. So in this example, we want to return a letter grade based on a score, and we're going to use ifs function to determine what that letter grade is. So our first test is going to be if our score is greater than 79. And if that's the case, then we're going to return a letter grade of A. And then we're going to test if our score is greater than 69. And that's going to be a letter grade of B. And then we're going to test if the score is greater than 59. And that's going to be a letter grade of C. And when it's greater than 49, that's going to be a D. And when it's greater than 0, that's going to be an F. And when we press enter and copy that down, we get our letter grade result. So that's the ifs function. It allows you to test multiple criteria and avoid using nested if functions.
New ink effects. Express your idea with players using metallic pen and ink effects like rainbow, galaxy, lava, ocean, gold, silver, and more. Also, they have digital pencil. Write or sketch our ideas with our new pencil texture. Also, they have customizable, portable pen set. Create a personal set of pens to suit your needs. Official, remember, your pen set is Word, Excel, and PowerPoint across all your Windows devices. Link equations, including math equation, has gotten much eraser. Now, you can go to insert equation, ink equation, any to a complex math equation in your workbook. If you can have a touch device, you can use your finger or a touch stylus to write math equation by hand and Excel while convert it to text. If you don't have a touch device, you can also use a mouse to write, and also you can erase, select, and correct what you write as you go. So they have also new ink replay button. Using ink in your spreadsheets, you can replay or rewind your ink to better understand the flow of it. Or your peers can replay it to get step-by-step instructions. And you find link replay on a draw to tab, give it a try. And also have a lasso select at your fingertips. Excel now has a lasso select, a free form tool for selecting ink. Drag with that tool to select a particular area or an ink drawing. And then you can manipulate that object as you wish. For more information, size, draw, and write with ink in Office. Convert ink drawing to shapes. Draw tab, let us select ink styles and start
making ink annotation on your touch editable device. However, you can also convert those ink annotation to shape. Just select them and then select convert to shape. That's why you can get a freedom or freeform drawing with the uniformity and standardization of office graphic shapes. And also the blast, use your surface pen to select and change object. In Excel, with a surface pen, you can also select an area without even taping the selection tools on the ribbon. Just press the barrel button on the pen and draw with the pen. To make a selection, then you can use the pen to move, resize, or narrate the ink object.
And now we are learning about switch function and TextJoin function. The switch function compares one value against the list of values and returns as a result of corresponding to the first match. The TextJoin function combines the text from multiple ranges and/or strings and includes a delimiter you specify between each text value that will be combined. If the delimiter is an empty strings, this function will effectively concatenate the ranges. So to learn more about that, I prepared a video tutorial for you.
Hello and welcome to this video tutorial from computergaga.com. In this video we are going to look at the TextJoin function of Excel 2016. Now this function is new to Excel 2016. It is not available in previous versions, and it has been introduced to ease the way that we concatenate values from different cells. So what I would like to do is in column D join the values from A, B and C to create a full address. And typically you would use the concatenate function to do that, or maybe even a feature called flash fill. But we're going to use a new function called TextJoin that would certainly create a smaller, more compact and quicker and easier formula than concatenate. So let me begin to type this function in cell D2. I'll zoom in a little bit more on this spreadsheet first of all so we can see what I'm writing on screen. And it's going to be TextJoin, which as I mentioned concatenates a range of strings together using a delimiter. And that is the first thing it's going to ask us. So we've got TextJoin opening bracket. What is your delimiter? So do I want something that's going to be separating these three values? The street, the city, the postcode? I do, and in my example it's going to be a comma and a space. So I'm entering that as a string within these inverted commas, these double quotations, comma space. Now after that I'll put my comma to move on to question 2. Do I want to ignore empty strings? Now I'm going to enter true. Yes, I do want to ignore empty cells here. Yeah, why would I not, maybe? I'm going to show an example of that when we're done, what impact that could have. So I'm going to enter true though, that's probably the likely answer there. And I'm going to put a comma. So the last question really, or the last mandatory one, although we can see on screen hopefully that you can enter more than one lot of text here. But I simply just need to highlight A2 to C2, those three cells. So this could be more or less than that. Those three cells, can you join A2, B2 and C2, ignoring any empty cells if there are any, there's not here. And can you delimit them, can you separate them with a comma and a space. Close bracket and enter, and we have the full address. And if I copy that down, it will do the same for all of them, each one delimited by a comma and space. Now, if I was to go and remove one of the cells, like in B3, if I delete London from there, it has no effect on the formula. Or it does, it's a different result, but it doesn't ruin it in any way. Now, if I just go back into the formula for a moment and just change my true to false, so I do not want it to ignore empty cells, and copy that down now. Now that is what it would do. It then puts the comma space in even though there's nothing there. So that is why we put true. So if that kind of thing is likely to happen in your spreadsheets, in your example, then that's the impact that it could have. You know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. That is why the example, the option is even there. But I would assume in most cases you want true there. You want to ignore those possible empty cells. And that is the TextJoin function of Excel 2016. It certainly made that an easier task to join 3 columns than it would have been.
The switch function is one of the logical functions in Excel. The switch function allows you to compare an expression to a list of values and return the corresponding result. To illustrate how to use the switch function, let's look at an example. Here we have a list of topics. Let's use the switch function to return a specific website for each topic. To get started, let's begin by entering the switch command. As you can see, the switch function takes a series of parameters. The first parameter you must enter is the expression that you will compare to a list of values. In this example, let's enter A2 as our expression. Cell A2 contains the value Minecraft. The next parameters we will need to enter is a list of values and their corresponding result. Each of the values will be compared to the expression, and once the first value is found that matches the expression, the corresponding result will be returned. You can enter one or more of these result value pairs. In this example, we will enter 2 pairs. For the first pair, we will enter Excel and techonthenet.com. For the second pair, we will enter Minecraft and digminecraft.com. The third parameter is optional. It is the default value to return if the expression was not found in the previous list of values. In this example, we will enter a default value of unknown. Now that we have entered all of the parameters for the switch function, let's complete the command to look at our result. You should see the value digminecraft.com appear in cell C2. This is the website that is paired with the topic of Minecraft. Now let's copy our formula into cells C3 and C4. Each of these cells now contain the corresponding switch value for its topic. In cell C3, you should see the value techonthenet.com. This is the value returned by the switch function when the topic is Excel. And finally in cell C4, you should see the value unknown. Since the topic weather is not found in the list of values in the switch function, the default value of unknown is returned. This completes our example of how to use Excel's switch function. If you would like to see more switch examples, or would like to download the sample data we used for this tutorial, please visit
MapChart has gotten even easier with geography data types. Simply input a list of geographic values such as country, state, country, city, postal code, and so on. Then select the list and go to the data tab. Data types, geography. Excel will automatically convert your data to a geography data type and will include properties relevant to that data that you can display in a map chart. Now it's time to create a map chart. So, select any cell within the data range, then go to the Insert tab. Chart Maps, Field Map. If the preview looks good, then press OK. Formatting your map chart. Once your map chart has been created, you can easily adjust its design.
Just click on the map, then choose from the chart design or format tabs in the ribbon. You can easily double-click the tab chart to launch the right-hand side of Excel. Map charts have gotten even easier with geography data types. Simply input a list of geographic values such as country, state, country, city, postal code, and so on. Then select the list and go to the data tab. Data types, geography. Excel will automatically convert your data to a geography data type and will include properties relevant to that data that you can display in a map chart.
Hi guys! I will introduce you some techniques. How to create a panel chart in Excel. Panel chart had 6 steps. The first one is add a separator field to the source data. 2. Summarize the data in a pivot table. 3. Copy the pivot table data as values. 4. Create a line chart from the copied data. 5. Add another series to create vertical dividing lines. 6. Add final formatting to clean up the chart. Please watch this some video to help us to learn. Hope you like it, guys. Thank you.
In an Excel panel chart, you can show 2 or more similar sets of data side by side. In this chart, we have 4 cities showing 7 months of data for each city, and they're in a single Excel chart, but it looks like 4 separate charts arranged horizontally. In this tutorial, we'll see the steps for creating a line panel chart like this one, and we'll follow these 6 main steps. And our first step will be to add a separator field to the source data. Here's the data table, here's the city field, and we have 4 different cities. I've listed them here alphabetically, and we're going to number them in 2 groups. I've put Boston and New York as 1, and San Diego and Los Angeles will be 2. I'm going to insert a column, so I'll right click and insert. I'm just going to select New York and Boston, type a 1 in those cells, and then the other 2 cities will be numbered 2. Now the cities are numbered, and I'm going to name this column Stagger, because we'll use it to stagger the data. So instead of it appearing in one column when we create a pivot table, it will be in columns 1 and 2. And that will create some blank areas in the data, and those blanks won't be plotted in the chart. The next step in creating a panel chart is to summarize this data in a pivot table. Click on any cell in the data, and on the Insert tab, click Pivot Table. This table where the data is stored is Table 1. We want this on a new worksheet, and click OK, and there's our blank pivot table. I'm going to put City and Order Date in the Row Labels area. We'll put total price in the values, and across the top we want stagger, so I'll drag that into the column labels, and the other field we want there is category, and I'll drag that below stagger. I'm going to get rid of these city subtotals. I'll right click on Boston and remove the check mark from subtotal city. I also want the layout a little different so that city and order date are in separate columns. And on the design tab where we are, there's a report layout. Right now we're in compact form, which is the default. I'm going to go with tabular form. We also have grand totals in this pivot table, and I'm going to remove those because we don't need them. So click grand totals off for rows and columns. We're going to, as the next step, copy this data and put it onto another sheet, paste it as values. I've zoomed out so we can see the entire pivot table. I'm going to select from the city heading down to the last cell with data, and on the Home tab, click Copy. And on a new sheet, click where I want it to be pasted, click the arrow for paste, and we want to paste values and number formatting. I'm going to put the word total in these 2 headings and remove the city and order date headings. The next step will be to create a line chart from this data that we've copied. On the Insert tab, click Line and create a 2D line chart. Now we can see 2 sets of data with bars, cookie, and total, and they're formatted with different colors. We want them all to appear to be the same set of data, so I'm going to change the formatting on the second set. I've clicked to select the legend, and then I'll click on bars, and that selects that item. And I'm going to change its formatting so it matches the first bars. Once they're all formatted in the same color, you can delete the second set from the legend. With that item selected, I'll just press the delete key and it's removed from the legend. The next step is adding the vertical dividing lines between the city data. I've created a table on the worksheet. I've got 3 rows, one that will be used for each vertical line. We have data from January to July, so we have 7 data points in each city set. The first dividing line we want after the 7th data point, midway between that and 8, so it will be at this number plus 0.5. And each one that follows will be 7 points after the preceding one. We want this series to be at the 0 point, so it will run along this horizontal axis. We're also going to create error bars, and they'll all be the same height, and we've set that at 1. To add a series to the chart, we're going to select the green cells and copy them. So with Control C, I copied. Then I'll select the chart, and on the Home tab, I'll click the arrow for Paste and click Paste Special. I'm going to paste this as a new series in columns, names in the first row, categories in the first column, and click OK. It's been added to the chart. We just see a little blue line here. We're going to change this into a scatter chart. So I've selected that little blue line, and on the Design tab, change chart type, XY scatter, and I'll select a line with no markers and click OK. Now this has automatically added a secondary axis and our line is now longer across the bottom. I'm going to click on it to select it. And if you have any trouble selecting it, you can go to the Layout tab. There's a drop down where you can select any item. So I could select Series Vertical Grid. So with this selected, I'm going to add error bars. On the Layout tab, click Analysis, Error Bars, and click More Error Bar Options. We are going to put in vertical error bars. We want plus, no cap, and a custom setting here. I'm going to move this so that I can see the cells that have the 1. Then click Specify Value, and for the positive error values, select the 3 blue cells that have the 1 in them and click OK. And then close this window. We now have the vertical bars. They don't reach all the way up to the top though, because they go up to 1 and this axis goes up to 1.2. So click on the axis and on the Layout tab click Format Selection. For this we want the minimum to be 0, which we can see in there. We could fix that at 0. Maximum we'll fix at 1. We also want to hide the marks that are on that secondary axis. So for major tick mark type, put none. This is already set to none. The labels we'll put to none. And click OK. So the secondary axis is still here, but everything is hidden. We don't need this secondary horizontal axis. It's causing these vertical lines to appear in the wrong spot because they're on that secondary axis. So I will select that and press delete. Now these vertical lines are on the primary axis and lined up correctly. We still have this blue line at the bottom, so I'm going to select that series and click Format Selection. The line color we want no line and click Close. So I can see little marks at the bottom of these vertical lines. So there is an X error bar there as well. If I click and select the X error bars, when they're highlighted, I can press the delete key and get rid of those as well. And the final thing we'll do is a little formatting to make these grid lines look a little nicer. They're quite dark and narrowly spaced. So if I double click on one of those, I get the major grid lines. I'll select solid line, a light gray. For the axis, I format that. Right now the major unit is 5,000. I can make that 10,000 instead, so they're a little better spacing. And finally, to make these dates look better, I'll have to go to the source data and format them. Here are the dates. On the Home tab, I'll click the Dialog Launch button, Number tab, Date, and I'll pick this single M, which is going to give me just the first letter of the date. Click OK. So now we just have a single letter there, and in the chart it's been picked up automatically. It's just showing every second one though, so if I select that axis and format it, instead of automatic interval, I'll click specify interval and set that at 1. When I click close, now there's a letter for each month. And I'm going to, as my last thing, just take this grid out of the logo, and our chart is ready.
For